Hey guys, what's up? It's your man Pete. And I know not a lot of agents out there dig into the process, the actual process of buying a house here in Toronto in the GTA. But for those of you who follow my channel, know that purchasing a house in Toronto is not an easy task, especially freehold detached properties, because they're highly in demand, they're highly coveted, and prices seem to just keep getting bid up every single year. And I know everyone watches the shows on HGTV or Slice or wherever you like to consume real estate content. But yeah, most of those shows are based in the US and they're purchasing homes in the suburbs where they're like $300,000, which to me is not an honest reflection of how the Toronto real estate market actually responds in this competitive environment. Which is why I'm here to shed some light on the truth and to give you the real deal on what it's actually like to buy a house here in the city. And I know it can all be so incredibly challenging and overwhelming. It's like you're inside an instant pot pressure cooker because you got to deal with the budget and finance. Sometimes you got to deal with the kids and the schools that they're going to. You got to deal with your spouse. And sometimes you even have to hear from other family members who aren't even actually going to live in the house. All this on top of all the other existing priorities that you have, such as work and exercise, which is why you need an experienced and level-headed agent to guide you through this entire process to make sure that you make the right decisions, not an emotional one. And not only am I here to give you the cold, hard, honest truth, but I'm also here to tell you that this is completely normal. It happens to everybody. Everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through these different stages and phases in the home buying process. And when you're working with me, my hope is to minimize that collateral damage and to walk you through the stages as smoothly and as quickly as possible, to get you caught up to speed. While everything can be a little bit stressful and a little bit painful, it's also kind of fun and exciting too, because this doesn't happen every day, where you're literally buying one of the biggest things in your life. No pressure or anything. But then of course throughout this process, you're also going to come to appreciate just how much hard work goes into buying a house, not just for you, but also the agent that you're working with as well too. So shout out to all the professional and hardworking agents out there. Everybody thinks buying a home is this amazing and beautiful process, just like it is on TV. And while it is amazing and beautiful, it really isn't as straightforward as one would think. Because what you're led to believe is that, okay, the home process starts with you're looking for stuff online. You find something amazing. You find a property that you love. You call your agent to book an appointment and go see it, submit an offer, and then the deal gets done. And then it's all rainbows, fairy dust, and champagne cocktails the rest of the way. But the truth is, it's not really like that. Life is not really like that, right guys? It's full of twists and turns, ups and downs. But the key point is that you learn, you adapt, you make changes, and then you eventually reach your destination. Unless of course you are the lucky few that live those perfect lives where you can literally buy whatever you want and your budget is pre-qualified into the millions. But let's be honest here guys, the higher the net worth and the higher income bracket you get into, the more demands and the more you want. So it's virtually a never-ending cycle. And so there comes a point where we have to realize where we are right now. We have to come to acceptance of that, and then we have to work within those constraints. And then through those sacrifices and weighing the options of what's more important to you, the priorities, you will discover a lot and it will become a lot clearer to you once we help you remove some of that clutter here at Selling Toronto. So the truth is, it's really more a process of elimination. It's about narrowing down your options. Starting with narrowing down a neighborhood, then a type and a style of home. And then once you do that, then you got to start dealing with offers and offer dates and bidding war situations and even the dreaded bully offer. And it really does become an exercise in FOMO, where you have to create a sense of urgency for yourself. Because when a good property comes out at a good price, somebody is going to move on it. I haven't really seen decent properties that don't sell in Toronto that don't have anything wrong with them. So it's not really about finding the perfect home, but it's really about finding the home that works for you at this point in time in your life. And what we'll often see is people do downgrade their expectations and then they adjust their thinking, especially because in Toronto, prices keep rising so quickly that, you have to adjust your expectations. You have to adapt to the market environment in order for you to get through the hurdles and the barriers and actually get into the market. But then on the other hand, sometimes we have people who really stretch their budget, right? Like they'll go a little bit more because they think that if they don't do it now, they're not going to be able to get this type of home a few months or a few years down the line. So there is that sense of urgency when it comes to buying a house. Real estate in Toronto sometimes can be a nasty blood sport, which is why we try to do our best to educate and to get our clients up to speed and to help them frame their thinking in a little bit more of a logical and practical approach rather than purely emotional. And then we take our clients through this special process that we've developed over the last 10 years. Don't get me wrong, there are rare instances where people will find the home right away, that checks all their boxes, they have sufficient budget for it, and then the deal gets done very smoothly. That's really more the exception than the rule these days. And like we always say, it's better to be prepared than to be sorry. So unfortunately, the sad reality is that there are more house buyers than there are houses on the market, especially this time of year early in the year. And it's really been that way easily for about the last 10 or 15 years. Because houses are so unique, it's really more like an auction. Here, put up the house for sale, see who's interested, generate as much traffic as possible, and then let the buyers do their due diligence and decide what this house is worth. No nitpicking at small little things. You got to decide for yourself what this house is worth and whether it works for you or not. And then you put in an offer hoping that the seller chooses your offer amongst a bunch of other motivated buyers. It seems to be the best and most equitable way to sell a house, and we employ that strategy here at Selling Toronto when we list properties for sale for our clients too. Because as we always say in real estate wisdom, whoever has the most motivation and the most money gets the house. Okay, so now back to the process. Here's my best strategy for helping you to find the home that works best for you. Notice I didn't say perfect house, because there is in fact no perfect house. It's really more about weighing the options and weighing what's the most important priorities for you. So what I normally tell people do from an organization standpoint is prepare your list of priorities. Just write down the top 5 things that are important in a property for you. Don't worry, it's not written in stone. This can change throughout the process, but it's just a fun little exercise, especially when I have a couple who are looking to buy a home together and sometimes their lines are crossed. They have a miscommunication. So it's important for them to be on the same page first before we can start looking at properties. And in this exercise, it's really important to identify what's the single most important deciding factor. Sometimes it's not clear in the beginning. Sometimes it becomes clearer in the process as we start looking at houses. We start talking about it and analyzing it and putting in offers, failing at offers even. But for a lot of people pre-pandemic, it's always been proximity to work. So transportation, subway, highways, and then sometimes it's proximity to a certain school that they're interested for their kids, or sometimes they just want to be close to family because that family can help with childcare when you have to go to work. So usually this one thing is really important and you definitely have to put some emphasis on it, and it will always make itself known throughout the process of what's really, really important to you. Okay, number 2, and while the top priority is absolutely paramount and important, we also have to factor in other things on that list too. So we have to sometimes take a holistic approach. Sometimes that's a better way to make a decision as well, but keeping in mind that the number one thing is still the number one thing. Because for example, sometimes people who are selling their condo or their townhouse and they need to move into a house and get more space, or they need to be in a certain neighborhood for their schools, that becomes the number one priority. And then generally we anchor that down and we work around everything else because that is non-negotiable. Okay, number 3, the old adage of location, location, location. And while it is true to a certain extent, but here in Toronto, it's all relative because people work all over the place. They work in different parts of the city. Sometimes, like I mentioned before, they want to be close to their friends or their relatives so that they can raise kids together like a community and help each other out. And while proximity and being in a good neighborhood and a good location or a nice community is still really important, obviously your proximity to your work right now may not have as much of an impact, because we're seeing and we're hearing a lot of people who are moving outside of Toronto into completely different cities altogether. The point here is we need to identify the right house for you in the right neighborhood and community where you feel the most comfortable in. And sometimes that's in a completely new neighborhood or community altogether that maybe you didn't even think about before. And while we do have all these technologies now, and some people do feel comfortable putting in an offer and purchasing a property without actually seeing it, using the digital tools, call me old-fashioned, but you need to be inside of a house to feel the scale, the size, the fit. How do you fit into that house? To me, it's a no-brainer. It's still like trying on shoes or trying on clothes, because you got to make sure it feels right on you and it's got to look good with you. In my opinion, technology cannot replace everything or that feeling. I don't really care what anybody says. Okay, number 4. Then once you've narrowed down your neighborhood or location, then you want to pay attention to any new listings that come out. So as soon as they come out, you want to call your agent to book an appointment so you can go see it immediately. Speed really matters here in Toronto and GTA for houses. But first, what you need to do is you need to crunch the numbers and figure out, is this home within your budget range? Because when the market is hot, it can get really hot. Houses can get anywhere between 10 to 20 offers on one property alone, which essentially gives no ceiling on the price whatsoever. So you got to make sure that your budget and your numbers are crystal clear, or as clear as they can be, and then really start start to understand your thresholds. Of course, this is where the expertise of an experienced agent is incredibly valuable, but they can sort of determine the heat level or the temperature of the market to decide whether it's something that you should go for or maybe something that you should just stay away from because it's just too hot right now. And of course, nobody really knows exactly what a house is going to sell for until the deal is actually done. But of course, with a more experienced or seasoned agent, they're going to be able to help you determine those numbers and help you to swing votes in your favor when talking to the seller and the listing agent. Okay, so now at stage number 5, you still haven't secured a property yet. You're still on top of the market. You're monitoring, you're analyzing. So it's really important to set markers and benchmarks for the properties that actually sell. You know, maybe the ones that you participated in that you didn't get. And so it's important to set data points to understand what's really happening in the market, how competitive, how hot it is, so that you can decide how you're going to react and respond when the next new property that also fits the bill comes out tomorrow. You know, sometimes in the hottest and most in-demand neighborhoods, it is important that you may have to downgrade your expectations. So instead of going for a detached property, maybe go down a notch and go to a semi-detached and have it, you know, a little bit more renovated. Or what you can do sometimes is to wait for the inventory to come out, and so it eases a little bit of that demand, hot pressure cooker environment where there's just tons of buyers and not enough properties. The key thing here is to be really realistic about your price points, because you don't want to stretch on a house in a property where you're really struggling on a month-to-month basis to support it and you're having trouble saving money and you're constantly bickering all the time about money with your spouse. But yes, it's absolutely true. When it comes to buying a house in Toronto, if you're not downgrading your expectations or buying in a neighborhood that's not as hot or maybe just slightly outside of the zone of where you wanted to buy, you will be stretched to your limits and you will be a little bit uncomfortable unless you're willing to sacrifice. So be fiscally responsible, guys. You know, realize that maybe this is not going to be your forever home, but maybe you're taking one next step up from a condo or a stacked townhouse to a freehold property. Buy what you need right now and that fits within your budget. Try not to overstretch yourself unless you really think you're not going to move ever again. So typically in my experience, house buyers will fail anywhere from 1 to 3 times before finally locking in and getting the house that they really want. And the reason for this is when you're putting in offers for the very first time, you know, you're tentative. You don't know exactly what your budget is. You don't want to overreach and you don't want to stretch. And so people are a little bit hesitant and intimidated by the process. But what I should say, it's really important to get some practice runs in there, you know, to get some reps in so that you understand the process a little bit better. Work with your agent a little bit better so you guys can gel and have chemistry better. But ultimately, after you've tried a few times or maybe you failed, you have a better understanding of how the market really reacts and responds, and then you can make adjustments on the fly so that you can get the next house that comes out that also fits your needs. There isn't just one house out there, guys, trust me. Okay, so number 7, and finally, when you're actually ready, you will know it and you will have the confidence. You will have what I call, quote unquote, the killer instinct. And sometimes that does come with a little bit of sacrifice. You know, instead of getting a 2-car garage, you're gonna get a single-car garage. Instead of getting 4 bedrooms, maybe a 3-bedroom is good enough for you. You know, sometimes it's these little differences where you're not paying more and extra for things that you don't actually need. Meanwhile, you've got somebody else putting in an offer who actually needs those 4 bedrooms. There's going to be a different level of motivation between those buyers, and we see this happening every single day. And this will help you reduce the price and finally allow you to lock in and get a deal done. And of course, let's not get into fully renovated properties. That's a whole different competitive game, guys. And truth be told, I always put my clients in the best possible position once we realize what exactly the budget range is, how much we can really go for it, and a little bit of sacrifices are made so that we can get the deal done. Which is why I always end up getting amazing homes for my clients that go up in value like crazy, because I'm here to help them decide and to get in the market so that they don't continue to miss out and then eventually become priced out of the zone they want to buy in. This, my friends, is the invaluable nature of our job, which is to be there and to support our clients in those most critical moments to help them make the right long-term decision for them and their family. So I hope I can help you do that as well when you're finally ready. And I hope that this video was helpful to you guys in some way. I'm just sort of talking and ranting here, but please make sure you don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, give us a like. We would really appreciate it. It really makes me happy and the channel is growing. And if you're interested in making a move or upgrading this year from a condo or a townhouse to a freehold property, then you definitely want to give us a shout here at Selling Toronto. We'd be happy to help so that we can introduce you and show you not only properties, but show you our process. So thanks for watching, everyone. We really appreciate it. I hope you're staying safe, staying warm, and staying healthy. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.